Welcome to the chi-square calculator test for independence application tutorial. Today we're going to go over how we use the test for independence calculator for my final year project, Loughborough chi-square calculator. So as you can see at the moment, we have the test for independence information as shown here. This provides you with a background information on how the application works. So you can either select go to the calculator from this link here, or by selecting the link at the top, which we'll use for now. As you can see, there are three methods for data input. First one being manual data, the second one being copy and pasting data, and the third being uploading data through a CSV. Firstly, I'll go through using the manual data input for creating a contingency table. And we'll use the example gained from StatTrek chi-square tests in order to do this. So as you can see, to create a contingency, we can do a 10 by 10 row and columns. If you had more than 10 rows and columns for your data entry, I would suggest you use the copy and paste or uploading data through a CSV. So let's go on to use the problem. A public opinion poll surveyed a simple random sample of 1,000 voters. Respondents were classified by gender and by voting preference. Results are shown in the contingency table below. Is there a gender gap? Do the men's voting preferences differ significantly from the women's preferences? Use a 0.05 level of significance. So, as we can see, the data that we've been given are rows and column totals, voting preferences, and gender. So, there are three variable parameters for voting preference, being Republican, Democrat, and Independent, and two groups, being male and female. Now, the initial hypothesis states that the gender and voting preferences are independent, as in one doesn't relate to the other. And the alternative hypothesis is that gender and voting preferences are not independent, which means that gender has a relationship on which parties you choose to vote. So we'll classify and see what data we can get from this. So for manual data input, we need two rows, which is selected there, and three columns. We then generate the table. As shown, we get the headings as groups and variables, as well as a totals column and a totals row for data to be calculated. This will be done automatically by using the application. So if we start inputting the data, for example, Republican male is 200, we can see that all the information is automatically calculated for the user. We then proceed with the remaining data. So 150, 50, 250, 300, and 50. As you can see, the data is exactly the same. The way the degrees of freedom is calculated for test for independence is as follows. It takes the column number and takes away 1, and then multiplies that by 1 minus the number of rows, which is 2 minus 1. This gives you the grand total of 2. Using this and the alpha value, or significance level as known to others, will be used in order to get our critical chi-square value for rejecting the hypothesis. So, as it says, using a significance level of 0.05, we then need to use an alpha value of 5%. There are also other values to choose from, should you see fit. So, now that we've attained these values, we now can calculate. As shown, the calculated chi-square value is 16.2037, which relates to the same figure as obtained by StatTrek. Also, with a critical chi-square value of 5.991, which can be attained from using any chi-square table. So, in conclusion, as 16.2037 is greater than 5.991, there is sufficient evidence to reject the null hypothesis. This means, in actual fact, that there is a relationship between gender and voting preference. This is further displayed in the graphical representation using the chi-square distribution graph. As you can see, the calculated value shows, in comparison to the critical value, shows that the data is extremely significant towards rejecting the null hypothesis, and that there is actually quite a strong relationship between gender and voting preference. As well as this, you're able to get a breakdown of how the calculations are created. For example, in order to calculate using the chi-square formula, which is the observed minus the expected squared over the expected, but as you can see from the data we have above, there is no expected data. only observed values. So the way the observed value is calculated is by taking the total of the row, the total of the column, and dividing it by the grand total. And this gives us a proportional value for each cell in the table. And it also shows then from what values we obtain each individual chi-square for each section. Right, now that we have mastered using manual input, we can proceed to copy and paste in data. If I am to refresh the page, and now press the copy and paste data link, we get a text area box here. Now I've used an Excel spreadsheet, which should generally be used in order to calculate your using your getting your data together. By copying here and then pasting by pressing Control, right click and then paste, and then submitting the data, we end up with the same table. The benefit of copying, pasting, or uploading is that you can have the data headings as you see fit, as long as they know what they're related to. So from this, we still get the same degrees of freedom, still the same alpha value, so we calculate, and as you can see, the values are consistent. Now we'll show you how to upload data through a CSV. So in order to save your file as a CSV first, proceed as follows. So if we press the save button on top, so file, save as, book 3. At the moment it's set, the type is saved as Excel workbook. From this we go from the drop down menu and press CSV, which is a comma separated value file. Let's name this gender voting. So we know what the data related to. And we then press save. Press OK to this, just so that it knows that you're only differing to one sheet, and that in order to make sure that all formats are suitable for comma separated value files. So now that's done and all saved, we then refresh this page and we'll proceed to do the upload data through CSV. So upload data, choose file, and as you can see, gender voting is placed there. If it wasn't to be saved as a CSV, then it won't show up in the current opening system. So click there, press open, and then submit. As you can see, we obtain the same data again. From this, they calculate it, and we obtain the same values. I hope you found this tutorial informative. Should you have any questions, please comment on the link below.